Hey, my name is Nick Fialka. I am a captain at a major airline flying the 757 and 767. I run the Ready for Pushback podcast, and I'm a coach at Spitfire Elite interview consultant.
Nick, what's going on, man? Welcome to the Pilot podcast.
Justin, I'm in your presence. I can't believe it. Thanks for having me on, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking off air about just this like really weird kind of, you're like 1 to 2 people away from everyone in the world, whatever. You're 6 people away, separation of whatever, however the statement is. But I was doing my taxes. I was signing my paperwork. The guy's like, oh, wait, you do an aviation podcast? I was like, yeah, man, I do. Like, you want to be a pilot? He's like, no, not at all. But my brother-in-law is also doing a podcast. And I was like, what? What are the chances? And he's like, Ready for Pushback? I was like, yeah, I've heard of Ready for Pushback. And he's like, oh, cool. That's awesome. But then haven't heard. We didn't connect or anything like that. And then it's been a year, get an email from you. It's like, all right, cool. Yeah, let's do a podcast, man. Let's link up.
Yeah. I thought it was absolutely hilarious when he told me that and then showed me all your taxes. That was great.
Right. You're like, you make that much money? It's like, dang, no. It's like, dang, I'm doing better than Justin. Good.
Let's go.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, no, it's a small world. I mean, we always talk about how aviation's a small world, and that kind of goes into kind of coaching and getting a job, right? Like you want to make sure you're in your time building and your CFI, whatever it is, you want to make sure you have a good attitude because people remember that. But it is such a small world in aviation. You never know. Like if I was a jerk to that guy, you might never wanted to reach out to me to be on my podcast or ask me to come on your podcast. So there we go.
I think that is one of the points I really try to drive home to people, especially that are going through the process of becoming a professional pilot as they're going through their flight training and their CFI. Like today's CFI could be junior to their student at an airline. So always be good to your people, always be a positive influence, because all of that, it just weirdly follows you the entire time. And even though each airline has, each major has like 17,000, 18,000 pilots.
Yeah.
It just is so small, and it's so wild when things come back around. And so you always got to be on. You always got to be the person your mom thinks you are.
I know. And it's funny because when you talk about that is when I was flying single pilot freight, my chief pilot there, eventually when I moved on the NetJets, I was like, dude, you got to come here. I love it. I love it. I love it. And then a couple months later, he applies to NetJets, gets hired too. And it's like, I'm senior junior now. It's like, if we were flying together, good thing you were cool and nice and weren't kind of a jerk chief pilot, but it's all good. But it's just funny how that works, right? You never think in the moment like, hey, my chief pilot could have the potential to be junior to me at my next job or at my final job or whatever. Even your first officer be like, hey, dude, gear up. It's like, what?
It's true. You always have to, your reputation will precede you everywhere you go. I've had people I have people that have been on interview teams that have interviewed a person that had been negative to them in their past. And that was an effect of them not getting a job offer because they had and they would call me afterwards and like, man, I made this mistake years ago and this came back to haunt me. And it's tricky, man.
Well, I mean, even like, so you said you work for Spitfire, you help coach. I'm sure interviews or companies can tell when they are trained by Spitfire, when they are trained by Cage Marshall, when they are trained by whatever they use, because I'm sure they all have the way that they train them. And they can be like, hey, dude, we're actually interviewing this person. You flew here, you flew there. Do you know them? It's like, oh, yeah, he was great. He was awesome. This is what he said, that he was very open about everything, wasn't shady at all. Like, I'm sure that happens. So it's just, you really got to make sure you're on top of everything.
Yeah, you do. And it is true when people interview, they do have an indelible mark from the organization that they use to do interview prep. And that's what I do love about what we do at Spitfire is the way we don't teach you what to say. We teach you to understand who you are. And if you know that, it doesn't matter what the question is because you can articulate yourself clearly and empathetically and put all the points on the board, because every question you get, you're graded. There's a point scale that they give you, 1 to 5, 1 to 10, however they want to do it. And at the end of the day, they add up all your points, put it together, and have a conversation, decide whether or not you're going to have that job.
Yeah, I remember when I was at my airline that I got hired at. I was sitting there, you do the interview. They're like, oh, this is awesome. This is great. And then they go away. And it's like, oh, that's when you start getting nervous. Like, oh, what's going to happen next? They have you all line up. They take one group out and then you still sit there and you're like, well, was that the hired group? Is that not the hired group? I almost think they enjoy it a little bit just to kind of play with your emotions and see. I feel like they're watching from the sky from like one last vantage point to see how you react in those moments. But it's very, very high stress situations.
They do. And I know that the HR teams at all of the carriers, they work really hard to try to reduce that stress level. But I'll tell you what, it just doesn't work. And the worst thing you can do is have like 8 or 10 of those free little bottles of water that are in the interview room and then just have to use the bathroom the entire time. Like, listen,
this guy had to go, you got problems? What's your medical look like? Yeah.
How are your kidneys? What's going on here?
Yeah. We got a doctor on site to come check you out.
Oh my gosh. It's true. But that stressful part. So when I interviewed, they forgot about me. And so they pulled like the people got the nose, went out early, and then there were 8 or so left, and they grabbed them and brought them in this room. And I literally sat there for 15 minutes like, oh my God. And I'm like, I'm the interview coach and I'm not going to get this job. And like,
this is embarrassing.
And then the guy comes around the corner. He's like, are you Nick? I'm like, I am. He's like, come with me. What do we even do in here? I was like, oh, thank you, Lord.
Maybe they knew your interview coach. They wanted you to stress a little bit more. They're like, all right, listen, we got to freak them out.
They hang me out to dry all the time still. Yeah. So it's good. It's a good relationship though.
Love it. Well, Nick, let's talk about you a little bit. We'll get into interviewing. We'll get into everything else, which I'm sure everyone really wants to hear because, the last couple of years has been crazy for interviews. It's been crazy for hiring. It kind of leveled off a little bit and hoping to pick back up, which we can talk about what you think, what Spitfire thinks, everything about that a little bit later. Right now, I want to focus on Nick, the person, the pilot, everything. So let's talk about you. Why did you ever become a pilot?
Man, I became a pilot because my buddy Justin Hartfelder told me that I probably couldn't do it. That is why I became a pilot.
That's really funny.
When I was in high school, this guy Justin and I grew up together from 6th grade on, and we're still friends today. He ended up going to the Naval Academy. I wasn't smart enough to get into an academy, and he told me, he's like, yeah, I'm going to be a pilot, and he told me I probably couldn't do it, and so I literally. I went to the Citadel thanks to a local businessman that from where I was. He actually paid for my first year of college. He called me over to his house and he knew that I didn't have any money for college. And he came to me and we walked around this property that he lived on and we were talking. He's like, so you want to go to the Citadel? What are your plans? And it was like, I'm just going to enlist in the Marine Corps and try to save money and go. And he said, and he handed me a check. He handed me a check for $20,000. And he said, that will cover the first year at the Citadel. The next 3 are up to you. And that gave me my start. And then I worked really hard. I got a Navy scholarship from there. And then I was one of 4 of us or so that ended up getting a pilot slot. And I went to fly in the Navy. And that guy changed my family tree. And here we are right now because of that generosity. So now I've got to do it to some kids sometime. And
I think first year pay might be a little bit more than 20. Or first year to school might be a little more than $20K now, though.
I know, that's the thing. Yeah, it's so expensive. Good Lord, I got 5 kids, man. I know.
Sheesh. Yeah.
Listen, this, and they all want to fly and all the things. I'm like, boy, golly, I better get some college to sponsor the show or something.
I know, right? Citadel, please help me. So when you have that type of generosity, like when you get the check for $20,000 in your hand, what's going through your mind? Are you just like elated? Are you excited? Or are you kind of like, no. Like there is no way, this is too much. I cannot take this. Or were you like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Let's go and started a career.
I was crying. Like I didn't know what to do or how to handle it. It was, I talked to my grandfather about it and he just said, this is a gift and this is your opportunity. So take advantage of it. And I love that. I think that opportunity, the only reason that opportunity came my way was because he was friends with our family and he knew how like dirt poor we were. Mm-hmm. And he just had it in his heart to do it. What's crazy is a few years ago, he passed away. and his son took over his company. It's a very big company in North Carolina. And his son has taken over his company, and he and I chat a little bit every now and then. And when he died, I wrote a letter to him and telling him, like, your dad was a great guy. Your dad was an amazing human. And he had no idea that the dad had never told anybody that he had done this. And so that to me was extra special.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
When I was talking about how you reacted, I get like, I don't know, I just feel uncomfortable when I get gifts or anything like, there's like a little feeling of uncomfort until someone told me it's like, there's something about being a gracious giver, and also you have to learn how to be a gracious receiver too. Mm-hmm. You have to learn to accept someone's gift and let them kind of give you the opportunity, give you this blessing that eventually helped change your life. And as you said, help change your family tree. So there's really something to it about learning how to be a gracious receiver as well, which it's kind of a learned skill. It's not as easy as someone would think.
I think that being a gracious receiver is virtue. And to be virtuous is to be above where you should be. And so on my show, I talk a lot about philosophy and virtue and leadership and the things that you can do to make yourself better, on that constant opportunity to propel yourself from where you are to where you want to be, knowing that place is incremental and never really attainable. And I think that a gracious receiver is that. I agree with you. I'm Catholic. I carry so much guilt and anxiety about that stuff. But as I grow and I understand myself, the ability to say thank you and to engage, but also to make sure that I understand now it's my opportunity to give bigger to somebody else and to give more to the society.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. So you receive this gift, you go to the Citadel, your Navy buddy told you could never be a pilot. And you were you got a fire lit under you, you were like, all right, I'm going to prove you wrong. Was there any other part of you that wanted to be a pilot before this? Or is it truly just because he said you can never be a pilot? Yeah,
no, I never wanted to be a pilot. I didn't even know you could be a pilot until he brought it up and said no. Cause where we are in North Carolina we're not close to Charlotte. We're not close to Raleigh. We're not close to even Asheville's airport. Mm-hmm. And so we were just in the middle of nowhere, and nobody was a pilot. And it wasn't around me. I didn't see it. If I was in Charlotte, I'd probably be surrounded by American guys and US Air guys and stuff like that. But I wasn't. And so I had this idea, I want to do it. And then the Citadel offered hey, if you want to do it, you got to take this test and we'll see if you qualify to do it. I was like, yeah, sure. I'll give it a shot. I had never been in a plane. I had flown one flight to visit my grandmother when I was 17 years old in Punta Gorda. That's the only time I've ever been in an airplane. And then my second time in an airplane was my first day of flight school in the Navy. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Were you worried you weren't going to like it? Were you worried I might get airsick? I might get this? Or was it any kind of...
I did get airsick the first flight. It's the only time I ever did it.
Yeah.
But I just thought I actually kind of had a bad attitude. I was kind of an ass of a kid. And so I thought I was cool coming from the Citadel, joining the military, and I thought nobody could tell me anything. And so I had a chip on my shoulder for a good portion of my military career. And if you talk to guys that were in my squadron in 2002 and 2003, they would tell you that guy you see on the podcast is not the guy that I knew.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. I had a bad attitude. What's funny is, so when I started flight school, my first day of flight school in the Navy was September 11th, 2001.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
That's a day to remember.
Yeah. And then because it was a Tuesday and they only start ground school on Tuesdays. And so then we got 2 weeks off, finished up ground school and started flying. But yeah, it took me a long time to get this mindset of how fortunate I was for the things I had. I thought it was just everybody gets this. I didn't think anything special about having wings on my chest or anything like that, or wearing a flight suit. But yeah, that bad attitude probably changed once I got married to my wife, Anna. And like I saw what it was like to be a good person, and I just kind of evolved from there. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's wild.
I mean, there's something to having a good partner, a good wife, a good husband in your life that can show you the way. That was for me as well. I mean, this podcast, I've talked about this many times, would not be a thing without Christina. The magazine probably wouldn't be a thing. So yeah, shout out to the good person in our lives that's helping changing our attitudes and making sure we stay on track and be thankful for what we have.
Yeah, and giving us the opportunity to do these shows too.
Yeah. Exactly. I've never talked to anyone on the podcast that started at the Citadel to do their training. You know, I've talked to Air Force Academy, I've talked to Naval Academy, I've talked to kind of Army pilots, but I've never talked to anyone in the Citadel. The Citadel is a very interesting place. I feel like no one really knows of it that doesn't live in the Carolinas, especially in Charleston. I mean, beautiful campus in Charleston. Like, you can't ask for a better place to go to school, scenic wise, right? But I don't know much about it. I know that it's not necessarily a military school, but it's like VMI a little bit almost, right? Like, it's like, I don't know how I'm gonna say this, but you don't have to go to the military after going to the school, but it is a military school, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It's an interesting thing. The Citadel is, first off, you want to get a kind of glimpse into it, you can pick up The Lords of Discipline by Pat Conroy that was written about the first Black student at the Citadel and his experience. But I think that to understand the Citadel is it's a lot of Charleston. It's a lot of Charleston history. Like, if you think about what Charleston history is, it's not pretty. And it has a lot of terrible stuff that has happened with slavery and the Civil War and all the, like, in the plantations and all the things that the money in Charleston came from. The school was set up in 1842 to basically be a militia in that, in the state. And so it was set up as a military school outside of West Point and outside of the Naval Academy, and the Air Force Academy didn't exist then. But, and then the Virginia Military Institute, similar kind of setup. And so, yeah, when you go there, you're a cadet. You shave your head. You're like, get yelled at. It's all the hazing stuff is what everybody always talks about, which is no fun. But when you're receiving it, but when you're giving it, maybe it is. Don't write that down. Sorry, America. Yeah. But you don't have to join the military. However, you do. You spend your life doing military things and marching and physical fitness and all these things. At the end while you're there, you have to take courses, ROTC courses given by the military. So you can choose the Air Force, the Army, or the Navy. Now you can choose Coast Guard stuff, which is cool. And people that want to join the Marines, they jump onto the Navy stuff as well. And that's kind of how you transition to there. When I went, my class started with 600 and something. I think we graduated 211. So a lot of people drop out.
Wow.
Yeah. It's because it's hard. It's really hard to make it through. And less than half my class joined the military, but after September 11th, it was like in the 90% of people, just like everybody joining. And now I don't know, like it's less, but not everybody goes. It's, if you are from that South Carolina, North Carolina area, and your parents are generationally well-to-do, there's a really good chance the Citadel's involved in that, and you'll have multi-generational people going there so that they can pick up and take over dad's law firm or go do, run whatever company. And that there was a lot of that too. So that was very interesting. And I know we're not talking about flying, but I never talk about the Citadel. Yeah. This is wild. I never thought we were talking about that.
No, well, the tie-in too is kind of like, what's the track of someone at the Citadel that wants to be a pilot? So obviously the Citadel, from my knowledge, does not have the ability to train pilots. Right. So you would have to choose then between Navy, Air Force, Army, or do you, like, how does that work? How do you get selected in which one? Is it up to you? Is it up to them? Kind of talk about that.
So my buddy Jeff Couch, he's an American. He's a Captain American. He's like 10 years senior to me at as far as like being an airline pilot. But he took the civilian path. I took the military path. Most of the 99% is going to be like, you're going to have to join the military to get that flight time. Or the other side of that coin is you're going to be looking for either a 141, like an ATP or a some kind of Part 61 flight school afterwards, just to knock it out. And so you're going to pay for. There is a flying club there. I'm not sure how active they are right now. I did buy one of their polo shirts to help support them a couple years back, and that's about as far down the road as I've gone. But and I hope somebody from the Citadel is listening to this and wants to like send you a message and be like, here's exactly what we're doing right now.
Please.
But yeah, there's really, if your goal was to be a pilot and not join the military, that would, I would have that pretty low on my list. Unless you really like marching in the hot South Carolina sun. If so, then it's built for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, not for me. Even though I played football, and I feel like I get yelled at all the time playing football. I probably got yelled at more playing football than I would have in the military.
Did you play football in college?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, how about that, man? That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. It was the best and the worst 4 years of my life, but yeah, it was a good time. So your career, Citadel, and then you chose Navy, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the Navy, and then did you go just do your 4 years at the Citadel, and then eventually you went to pilot training after that?
Yeah, I did my 4 years at the Citadel, and we graduated like May 12th, and then I was just waiting to start, and a couple months later they sent me down to Pensacola. That's when I started the training. 6 weeks of indoctrination stuff where you like, they make sure you can swim and they teach you all the survival stuff. And then you start flight school, like ground school after that 6 week, group of work. That's called, API. They call it KNIFE now, I believe, but they got all these names. They've changed over every time there's a change in acronyms in the Navy, like, an admiral gets a star. So it's a great thing.
That's really funny. When you graduated the Citadel, are you considered an officer, or do you have to go to officer school as well?
So you are considered, you don't have to go to officer school. You get commissioned straight in because you did the 4 years of ROTC training. And there's certain stuff you've got to do during the summertime just to go and get a little, like, you spend a month with the active duty Navy to see what things are like. I mean, it's fun. I went to Thailand for a month. It was amazing. 18-year-old Nick with $600 in his pocket for 2 weeks, 3 weeks in Thailand. It was awesome. It
goes a long way in Thailand, doesn't it?
Oh man, yeah. I was living like a king. So,
yeah.
out in Phuket. If you guys have ever been there, good golly, Miss Molly.
Yeah, nope, not me. I've been to China before, but not Thailand. So you're doing your military career. Was the goal then to stay military? Like, did you have an idea of like, all right, I'm military trained, military kind of on my brain. I'm going to stay here for the full 20 years, full 40 years, whatever it is. I'm going to be military for life. Or was it, all right, get this done, put in my time, check out ASAP, get to the airlines?
No, neither.
Okay.
Get done as soon as possible. Let me ask
the third question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm kidding.
Give me the third one.
I'd have another one.
The third one, just profit. It was get in, get out, start a business, be a millionaire. That was it.
Okay.
And that was my plan. And so I got in, I got out, started a business, and then I was not a millionaire. And so it's
tough out here in these streets, man. It's tough.
It is. So I spent my first 9 years as active duty, and then I got out and stayed in the reserves. And I thought I was going to, take over the world. And so I started, but also it was 2009 and the economy was completely crushed, and I couldn't find it was hard to find a job and do all that. And it was a tricky time to be broke and out of the military.
So you were still flying in the reserves, but also trying to do your own thing, just civilian wise, business wise, right?
Yeah. I was
no idea of wanting to be an airline pilot.
No, I had just, cause I was a helicopter pilot in the Navy, and then I switched to a fixed wing flight instructor, flying the T-34, which they don't even fly anymore. And so I got out, I wasn't even flying. I was just drilling in the Navy and just spending time. And I was my first job, it was like Dunder Mifflin. I sold toilet paper and office supplies. And then I ended up getting a finance job in DC in the Pentagon, working with a consulting company. And that was pretty cool, but it was very stressful.
Yeah.
But while I was there, some dude was like, "Hey, you should go fly at my old squadron. I was the Commodore over here. You can go fly 53s, which is a 53 MH. 53 is like 100-foot long helicopter. It's like 20 something feet tall. It's huge. It's the Transformer helicopter."
Yeah.
And so I went and flew that for like 4 years. It was awesome. And that's how I got my flying fix. And I still wasn't even thinking about the airlines because I wanted to start an RV park. And so I built an RV park in Florida. Way. Yeah.
Dang.
Sold my house, spent all my money, built an RV park for like almost $3 million and ran that and lived in a mobile home on the RV park and built it and ran it for about 5 years. And I built it to the highest rated RV park in the state of Florida. And then I sold it.
There's a lot of RVs in Florida. So that's something. Yeah. You know, I never knew the luxury market of RVs and how much you can spend in Airstreams and RVs and trailers and Mercedes Sprinter vans. Like once, I think probably before COVID, like 2016 to like 2018, it was really popular for YouTubers to buy these Sprinter vans, make them really cool. And that's when I first I was just like, oh, Sprinter van would be cool. I was like, okay, that's a lot. Or an RV would be cool. I was like, okay, that's even more. It's like a fifth wheel. It's like, holy smokes, Airstreams. Like I never knew there's so much money in the RV world. It is insane.
It was not uncommon to have a $3 million RV on my site, on my lot.
Dang.
I mean, all day long. When that actually kind of feeds into how I got to the airlines. People were whispering, all my Navy buddies were like, "Hey man, you should think about going to the airlines." I was like, "Yeah, I don't know. I'm liking what I'm doing here." And one day, this like $700,000 RV pulls in. And it's this dude, he sits in my office, he looks around, he sees my I Love Me wall where it's got all my Navy pictures around. And he says, "Oh man, you're a pilot. Why aren't you flying at the airlines?" And I made my excuses. And he says, "Dude, like, why don't you just come talk to me?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, weird." So I went and parked the guy, did some work. It's like Tuesday at 11 o'clock in the morning. I go over to his RV. I knock on the door. I'm like, "Hey, what do you want to talk about?" He's like, "Hey, my name's such and such. I just retired from Delta. I want to talk to you about you should maybe go to the airlines. Come on in." So I go into his RV, pulls out a bottle of Eagle Rare, puts it on the table, and we drink almost that entire bottle. And I stumble home at 11 o'clock in the morning, and I look at Anna, and I was like, "We're going to the airlines." And she's like, "What in the hell are you talking about?" And she's like, she was very upset that I was drinking at 11 o'clock in the morning. I don't usually do that. And that was
usually you say good things don't happen when you do that, but it sounds like good things do happen when you do that for you.
I did that day. Yeah. It really was. It was very serendipitous. The guy was super cool. And so I called up my mentor, Michael Phillips, who I've interviewed on my show a couple times. And I rolled in and told him, like, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this." He's like, "Well, if you want to do that, come on. I've got access to an airplane. Let's get your multi-engine rating and get you sent off." So I went, I got 26 hours. I hadn't flown in like 5.5 years. I got 26 hours in a DA-42, took my check ride, passed it, interviewed at Envoy like a week later and started like 3 weeks after that.
No way.
It was wild. And
Dude, that's crazy.
And I sold the RV park and I used all the money from the RV park to pay for the 5 years of making $1,500 every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
that's something I love to talk about. It's just, as someone who came in new to the 121 world from the fraction world, so I got to see the new contracts, I got to see all this other stuff. Yeah. And my dad is an airline pilot, so I've seen the bad side. I've seen, U.S. Airways after 9/11 where they take 60%, you lose your pension. I've seen the bad side. So my dad was kind of like, if I ever hear about you complaining about anything in your contract, I will slap you. He didn't actually say that, but I have a feeling that my grandpa, who also flew in the airlines, and my dad would both slap me silly if I ever complained about anything. But it's very interesting to hear people complain about stuff that don't remember or don't even need. Some people don't even know. All they know is I went to flight school. I got hired at a regional. I spent 2 years at the regional. Now I'm at American. Now I'm at Delta. Now I'm at wherever. That didn't happen back in the day. 2009, when you got out of the military, probably one of the worst times to be a pilot, right? Like, yeah. I mean, everyone's furloughed, can't get hired. There's like 10 people getting hired maybe for an airline, maybe more. I don't know, but it was
to get hired there, to get hired in 2009, you had to have 3,000 hours of aircraft commander multi-engine heavy time and a 737 type rating. And that made you just barely qualified to interview at Southwest. And they would take 15 people that year.
It's insane.
Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah,
I think you bring up a good point though. Can I talk to that for just a quick second?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
I don't know when this is coming out, but last night my phone started exploding, and it was people that were on a conference call with Avelo Airlines, and Avelo is announcing that they're furloughing 25% of the people. So this happened less than 12 hours ago, and they're gonna drop off 5 of their aircraft, and they're doing like a lot of things are going on, and there's shock going through the community about this furlough on top of what's going on at Spirit. And they're like, oh man, how can this happen? This and that. And because there's no perspective, because we've lost like that gap from 2009 was a long, long time ago. And so now like the smaller companies, the startups, the companies that struggle to sell tickets and be consistent on routes and things like that. Those are the companies that are having those ripple effects. And that is literally the nature of aviation. When you go to Miami and you look over there on the cargo ramp and you're like, what are all these different airlines? I've never even heard of these. Like they're like some exist, some don't exist, and they come and they go and they rename and they sell their certificate and all this stuff. And that is like the life cycle of aviation. Not this time from the new contracts post COVID till now is freaking amazing, and we're in a wonderful time. But also, when you got to be like Mad Eye Moody. You've got to have one. You're doing your job, getting your hours, but you've got to have one eye, looking somewhere else. Like, what am I going to do next? Because when my phone started ringing, and it's these guys I'm 25 from the bottom. I just left the military. I've got 3 kids. How am I going to support them? What am I going to do? Like I thought this would be a good call. And then another guy calls and he's like, dude, I just got hired by American. I'm going to be leaving here. I can't. I'm so thankful that I was listening to you and able to pivot, and like these 2 different sides. And it's so hard. So my heart, like the empathy that I feel and that I try to bring to these guys and gals that I talk to, I mean, it is real, because I most of my phone calls are not like, hey, I've got 2 good choices. What do I make? It's like, this bad thing happened. How do I pivot?
Yeah.
So,
which is tough. And I saw when I woke up this morning, I didn't have phone calls because I don't help with interviewing, but I was like, hey, Avelo is restructuring. And why I thought that was interesting is because I always thought it was cool that Avelo had a base in Raleigh-Durham. I was like, oh, man, I'm not going to work for them, but like, it's cool to see someone have a base here. And I like that. And then it's like, well, JK, we are now changing that. And I guess they're moving the base to Concord, and they went from a ton of bases, just 4 or 5 bases. And I didn't realize it was because of kind of like a downturn. The way the article that I read was just, we're restructuring more profitable routes, more profitable airplanes are coming on. We're getting rid of the less fuel efficient 737-700s and focusing on the 800. So yeah, it's
they're focusing on doing detainee flights to other countries. Like, that's what they're focusing on. It's not like the ticket purchasing is really struggling as far as just their flying from Raleigh or whatever. They closed Burbank, I don't know, 4 months ago. Everything on the West Coast closed down a couple months ago, and it's this march toward, like, I don't want to say march towards insolvency, but like, better tighten that belt is what the marketing team was trying to tell you at Avelo. Yeah, so that's what I feel.
It's a tough industry, right? I mean, we've seen big giants go out. We've seen massive airlines that you would never think would leave. I mean, this was a while ago, but it doesn't mean it can't happening in today. It's really interesting because once you're on top in the aviation world, like, they think it's going to stay like that forever. They think it's going to be like this forever. But there was a time where Delta wasn't number 1. There was a time when United could not buy a good story about themselves, and now everything you read about United is like, oh, this is the best. This is awesome. This is great. They really turned it around. So what is number 1 right now doesn't mean in 10 years will be number 1 as well. So it's just such an interest. I truly don't know if there's anything like this industry. Like, it's truly just it's like the Wild Wild West. You never know what's going to happen.
I also think that just because you have seniority doesn't mean you're safe. And when you look at Western Global, when UPS had the MD-11 tragedy, the DOT grounded all MD-11s. Well, Western Global furloughed every MD-11 pilot they had. Doesn't matter if it's the number one guy or the brand new, or the most brand new guy. And that they furloughed out of seniority order to get all of those people because they can't fly them anymore. And they're like, all of a sudden, like Monday was a good day. Tuesday, we're about to completely collapse. So that is aviation.
Yeah. And you would like to think that that wouldn't happen at kind of, the big four or the major airlines. But at the end of the day, airlines do what they need to do to try to survive. And I'm sure if they had to, they'd be like, hey, we're going to do this. You can fight it in arbitration. We can wait the 2 years for this and hopefully we'll be better. Or they're going to be like, look, this is all we got. We're going to go out of business unless you let us do that. And they're going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, we can do that. It's definitely crazy. These contracts are great though. It is a great time to be a pilot. It's really interesting thinking about like 2020, the massive downturn, what felt like everyone's going to get furloughed, didn't know what was going to happen. And then what actually was happening was it was the perfect time to be applying to a major airline. It was the perfect time to start your training. It was the perfect time to continue your training and get caught in the biggest boom in aviation history. Well, hopefully it continues. Like it might slow down a little bit. We're probably not going to see the same hiring numbers, which you could probably talk on as well. But it seems to be that 2026 hopefully will be another great year for hiring. Do you see that? Does Spitfire see that? Or is it kind of just like we'll see. We don't know yet. There's still a lot going on.
Well, I know the forecasts. I know what everybody's talking about. It's nice to have access to the 121 carrier hiring teams and having these conversations. And I'll tell you that it all changes. Like when you look back at 2025, when you just look at United, their original number was like 1,700 that they were trying to hire. And they ended up over 2,200 because they made a pivot, a decision. Scott Kirby and his team made a decision. I want to say like September or so that like, hey, let's ramp this up and get going and let's cash in on these pilots now. And so they did, and they like doubled down and really ramped up their hiring. And with that hiring, they also really ramped up their like thanks, but no thanks as well. And so that like people that weren't expecting opportunities got opportunities, and some people were caught with their pants down and not ready. And hadn't been getting ready ahead of time. So I do want to warn you, like if anybody's applying, first off, I think, 2020, all that stuff, that was super cool. Like what a wild ride. But it is like, if like my kids, like as they're wanting to start into aviation, like now's a great time to get into it because there's, we are in a place where I don't want to say there's more stability, but there's more ability to absorb abnormalities. If another COVID happens or another September 11th, like even if another September 11th were to happen, I'm not sure that the flying public would stop flying for such a great amount of time. I'm not sure that would happen. Or like with the economic crisis and the bankruptcies, there's a lot more cash on hand. There's a lot less debt being managed by every airline, except like Americans still paying down their debt as well. But everybody's getting to this really good footing to be able to absorb some kind of black swan event, if you want to call it that, or whatever it is. And so that's good. But I don't want to like stake my claim that it'll never happen again, because I can't, like it will. It's every 8 years, some bullshit happens. Yeah. And so you roll with it, and you've always got to be like, my what ifs. I'm a captain at my airline, but every day I'm a what if. You cannot believe how much money I try to save just because I spent my whole life with no money. Just because like, I want to make sure that if it ends today, because I say something on the show that somebody doesn't like and they fire me today, like, okay, like I will be okay. I will find another path. I will be able to support my family. And also, if you were a pilot and you want to get back into aviation, I also think now is a great time, because I had a phone call on Sunday of a guy I've known, a guy I went to the Citadel with, and he was a pilot. He's got a whole bunch of kids. and he doesn't like his desk job. He hates his desk job. And he's like, I want to figure out how to fly. And so we've started the conversation about how to get to a regional, but you can now get to a regional with just a little bit of savings. If you are trying to support a family, like that first year pay is not great. It's probably a pay cut for whatever you're doing now, but then year 2 and 3 and 4, like that's a lot better, man. And so be ready for that, like enjoy that, and lean forward if you can, but have a talk with your spouse first, figure it out,
It's crazy that you can actually have a living wage now at the regional airlines, right?
Oh my gosh.
I remember talking when I first started the podcast, I started talking to more people that were just getting hired by the majors there at the regionals for a while, kind of in the bad years. And there's a lot of stories of, I slept on the bench. I slept on the crew lounge. I slept by the gate. I was shaving in the terminal bathroom. I was brushing my teeth there. Like, couldn't afford anything. Yeah. Like, honestly, could have been on welfare because of the pay.
The people at my church were buying us groceries. And I had to choose when to pay our electric bill. It was very difficult. And I went through my entire life savings. I literally was down to zero by the time I got hired by the major. It was the most serendipitous moment of my life because we were about to call uncle and I was going to go figure something else out. So you never know. Like, I was on the razor's edge, man. And so, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the experience. If I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't be able to have the show, wouldn't be able to have the conversations and the depth of experience that I've had. And so it's great, man. Yeah. Let's go.
So as someone who is an interview coach now at Spitfire, did you use interview coaching? Did you use a program to get hired, or did you I could do this? I know how to answer questions.
I feel like I'm a natural speaker. I actually have taken classes in storytelling and public speaking, and there's no way in hell I would go to an interview without interview prep ever. I have seen people do it, and I would say the majority of them are unsuccessful. And then you meet the ones and twos of the person that did do it and got the job offer. Like, good on you, bro. You beat the curve. But if you have the opportunity to put the odds in your favor so that you're going to win the game, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. And the way I look at it is the airlines see they see so many people go through interview coaching. Like, they probably see it all the time.
They do.
So that is the bare minimum of the answers of the preparing that they expect. Like, they expect you at the very least to be able to put out what everyone that you guys can put out. And if you can't match that on your own, then they're gonna be like, well, you didn't feel like this job was important enough to prepare this hard for, or to pay the $600 for, then why would we hire you over someone that is really wanting this and really has put the time and effort to interview?
If you're 25 years old and you're interviewing at a major airline, you've got $22 million at stake. And one of the things we like to say at Spitfire is we make more millionaires every single year than professional baseball will do in 5 years. And that's the fact of the matter. And it's not about the money, but it is about the fact that you need to realize, like, there's a lot at stake, bro. And you need to double up on it. And so to answer your question, I did use Spitfire. I started off with another organization, and I thought that it was antiquated. And I thought that they had a bunch of videos online. I thought they were like old from like the 90s. It was, and it didn't. I was like, this is fine, but I was scared. I was like, man, I don't feel it. And Spitfire was just starting, and somebody had reached out and said, you should give this a try. And so I spent the money, and it was a scary thing to spend the money, and man, it just changed everything. It is true that the interviewer can smell what you're putting down, and they know who you've used based on how you articulate yourself, because there's a couple different varieties and flavors of how to talk about yourself. There's a canned answer where, like, hey, I've heard this story before. I've heard, like, the names have changed, the times have changed, but golly, man, I keep hearing this basic style of story over and over and over. And then there's one like, oh, this person led with empathy, and this person led with the way to articulate back to me what the question was. I pushed them a little bit. They were able to pivot. They used great crew resource management. They really understood the position. And then at the end of the question, they told me how that experience was going to make things better at United and make things better at American, and how they are the asset that we want to make our company go to the next level. And so getting from like, tell me about a time you did this, to let me tell you how with me at your organization, we're all going to win together. Like that's a higher level conversation that takes experience to be able to articulate believably.
Yeah.
So.
The way that, I mean, this might be wrong, but I kind of view it, or I have viewed it in the past as, if you want to go to United, you go to Cage Marshall, Denver, right? If you want to go to American, as of recent, you go to Spitfire. I don't know what Deltas would be, but is that true? Is that completely false?
I would say if you want to go to Delta, use Spitfire. If you want to go to American, you should use Spitfire. And United, a really good choice for United these days is Spitfire. And I love Cage Marshall as well. So no shade to the ladies at Cage Marshall. I think they're awesome. And if you want to use them, 110%, I back you on that. Yeah. I think that they have so much to offer, and it's one of my favorite companies. So, I do like, I bristle a little bit to, hey, this is the company focused on that organization, because what happens there is if they are completely focused on one company, that's where your canned answers come from. That's where you're like, hey, I know what they like to hear. I know what they want to hear. So I'm going to teach you the thing that they want to hear. Like it's bigger than that. And so you need to zoom out to know, like we didn't even start to try with American. We started because the FedEx CRM exercise was like created by Bill and Tron, the owners, and they taught to it, and they help people understand how to accomplish it. And FedEx hasn't hired in 18 months, but we were started to help minorities, women, and people with English as a second language get into aviation. And so if we can help them get there, because they are the least represented of anybody in the aviation industry, then everybody else benefits, because you can, like, if we can help them, we can easily help you.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter if you're military, it doesn't matter if you're a civilian, man. If I'm filling out an application, if I'm like, hey, I've got my ATP CTP next week, and I'm starting to fill out my application, by the time you hit send, you should already be signed up for interview prep. Because
I was about to ask that. I was like, when should someone sign up for it? All right, let's say I'm at Endeavor. I want to apply to all the airlines. Do I do it before I even start the application? Do I do it in the application? Do I do it for the resume? Like, when is the perfect time for this to happen?
I think that if you are going to start if you start formally moving that way, then the first thing you need to listen. Let me digress a little bit. You need your notebook. Get your notebook together. Start writing down your stories, and then you need to start writing down your budget and where your expenses are going to go, because the expenses happen a lot, and they're just super dynamic. And every time you turn around, it's a logbook thing, or it's an app review thing, or it's an interview prep thing, or it's a suit, or it's shoes, or it's a haircut. You need all of those expenses written down, and then you've got to allocate. When am I going to buy that? Do I have all the money right now? Well, then let's just go get it. If not, then you need to rack and stack that in level of importance. Am I going to go to a conference? That's $1,000 minimum. I mean, if you don't fly for free, if you can't non-rev, that's $2,000. So those are things you've got to think about. But when you're building that application, your budget should be leaning toward it's time to do interview prep, because even if it takes 2 years to get the interview, it took me 5 years to go from as a Navy pilot. It took me 5 years to get hired from my regional to a major. And I thought it was going to be 18 months, but I had my interview prep stuff in my pocket that entire time, because my application was already published. I would update it every single week for 5 freaking years. Sorry.
What's that timeline look for right now for someone that's applying right now? Like, what do you see? Was there a trend? Is it just different? Is there just Is there a magic sauce to getting faster? Or is it just kind of like, it's
Yeah,
just
you need
whenever they look at your application?
1,501 hours.
Okay.
If
There
you
it
have
is.
1,501 hours, you'll be hired.
immediately.
You're hired.
Yeah.
I would tell everybody, like, don't believe the lie of this guy had 50 hours less than me and he got hired. Yeah, that person did, but that person also had other things. The application is awful. It's 30 pages long. The application takes so long to fill out. And because of that, there's a lot of information about you on there. And that story creates the entire profile of who you are on top of your interview. And so just to get called, like, you could maybe, hey, they might have 50 hours less than you, but they were a Gold SEAL instructor. They were a Blue Angel. They were an astronaut. They were pick your thing. They volunteered for the union. They're the vice president of the of OBAP, or they're this or they're that. They volunteer, they give back, they do things more than they take. And they're part of this aviation community. I've seen them at 5 conferences in a row. I've seen them at 10 conferences in a row. I've seen them here. I've seen them there. I see them being positive on LinkedIn, like all these things. That's like the big picture. It's all of it. And it's, you've just got to roll with it. Sometimes you're going to get the interview, you're going to get a thanks but no thanks, and you're going to pivot and you're going to roll to the next interview, and you're going to get thanks but no thanks, and you're going to pivot and roll to the next interview, and they're going to say, welcome aboard, we're happy to have you, and you're going to be home. So it's, it's more than just 1,500 hours. It's more than just 3,000 hours. It's a bigger picture. So don't focus on that. Focus on making yourself better every single day. If you can make yourself just incrementally better, you have a better chance tomorrow and a better chance the next day.
Do you guys talk at all about social media presence and how that can negatively affect you or positively affect you? Like the airlines, when they see applicants or when they invite you out, do they actually go check your social media to see what you're posting, to see what you're doing? Is it something you should make pride? Just kind of talk about Spitfire's guidance on social media, because I'm guessing an airline would want to prevent a headache that could pop up.
You are one of the biggest aviation podcast hosts in the world, right? You fly for a major airline. I am a medium-sized podcast host. I fly for a major airline. When you go on my socials, you'll see that I fly at a major airline. Mm-hmm. You're not going to see my wings. You're not going to see my shoulder board. If maybe I wore a hat, you wouldn't know, because I wouldn't have a picture of it up there. However, I understand that people are dynamic in their social media, and they're influencing the things they want to do. I have seen it work positively, and I have seen it work very negatively. I've seen people lose their jobs because of that. Mm-hmm. And so you have to know yourself and how you're going to thread that needle. And if you are an influencer and you do get an opportunity, I wouldn't be flaunting that opportunity before you have a seniority number, because that, there's just so much they can get rid of you for when you're on probation, or when you have a CJO and they're like, we're just going to pull that CJO. I work with some influencers. I've had a ton of them come through Spitfire, and they're all different. Some people are like, look at this experience that I'm on. What a wonderful experience. Some people are like, hey, look at me and how cool I am and what I do and this thing. And then, there's different flavors. And so you need to know your flavor and be honest with yourself. Right. If you, I think about one of my favorites is My Layover Life, the dude from United. Yeah. Like, he clearly shows he's from United, but he has permission from United. I have permission from my airline to talk about what I do, but I'm very careful about it, because I don't want to impact their brand. I want them to be successful so that I can be successful. Right. And so, if I'm flying a trip every day to St. Thomas, I got to be careful about how I'm going to deliver that. I would say you got to do you, but also if there's I would err on the side of being more conservative on the things you're going to do, because it is when you go to this job, they don't want to know, don't want to know how many people are following you. You're getting that job because you need the money, you need the insurance. And that's why you're going to get that job. It's
Right.
like, if you're making $10 million a year doing your influencing, like, you don't need that job.
Yeah.
So that's not who's going to get the job.
Right.
Also, if you are making $10 million a year, please call me. Please give me a call. I would like to talk to you.
Yeah. How do you do it?
I'm not pretty enough.
What are your kind of, without giving away too much, right?
Uh-oh.
Obviously, go to Spitfire.
Of course.
What are your top 3 do's and don'ts for the application process? This could be a resume. It could be the application. It could be an interview. Like the top 3 things airlines don't want to see and the top 3 things airlines do want to see.
I think that the number one thing is you need to lead well with who you are. And so that means I need you to have your application tight. And the way you get your application tight is to have somebody review it, that it does it professionally, that's seen thousands of resumes. They can tell you how to reword your DUI, how to reword your incident, how to reword your accident, how to write the word drive instead of DR with a period, or how to be consistent across an application. That application takes weeks to fill out. Tell me I'm wrong. Like it's awful. And that's just one airline. And anyway, so be ready with that. But also your resume is who you are, and your logbook is your thesis. So both of those need to be tight. When we go, so Spitfire, we pride ourselves as the only interview coaching company to go to every single one of the conventions. All 7 of them, we go every single year. And now we're actually starting to partner with the Arab American Aviation Professionals, which is a brand new group starting this year, like that it formed last year, and they're really moving forward this year. So there will be an 8th conference in 2027. Cool. So we invest very heavily in that. But while we're there, we do resume review, and we'll have every day, we have people waiting 30, 45 minutes for us to go through resumes and rejigger them and get them set. All of that stuff, you're doing yourself a little bit of a disservice showing up and needing a review. Like, you should show up in front of a recruiter with the tightest resume you ever had and the most confidence and the most brushed teeth, and just go in there with a smile and crush. And so if you can do those things and know your logbook and have it in order and do the basics, that's going to set you off on that opportunity that somebody else is not going to have.
What's a common resume mistake that you see? Like maybe like one of the most common ones that's like, oh my gosh, for the love of whatever, please change this.
I have a really great episode about how to write the perfect resume. And I would first off push people to go watch that. I spent a lot of time. I asked for people to send me resumes. I got more than 1,000 resumes. And I went through them all. It took forever. And I saw a lot of white space. I see a lot of misspellings. I see a lot of people using, we are in a conservative job, doing like dressing conservatively, like acting, you could go to a convention in 1955 and go to a convention in 2025 and it looks similar. People in suits, booths, that kind of stuff. And same thing at the interview. It all looks the same. So you need to be aligned and know that the things you're talking about and the things that you're doing are all organized to be as conservative as possible. And so on resumes, using newer format stuff, I'm not hiring a graphic designer. I don't need your cool emojis and like, that's a cell phone. That's my cell phone number. Here's a little computer. It shows what my email address is. Like, get that stuff out of here, man. Like, get it tight, get it conservative, and less is more. Not less is more with like, no, there's a ton of white space, but less is more like, I don't need you to be decorative. I don't need you to be the social media. And do not put your Instagram handle on your resume.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh, wow.
I see it. Like, I'm
Follow
like,
me.
Yeah. Well, they're like, hey, I got this line here about me being an influencer, and I get this marker, and I'm like, get that shit out of here. Like, no way. Like, that's actually kind of a threat. So they don't want that. I want, who your mom thinks you are. I want you to be that really good pilot, that really good instructor, that really good, regional pilot, whatever it is, I want you to talk about leadership. I want you to talk about safety. I want you to talk about crew resource management. I want you to talk about customer service. If it doesn't talk about those 4 things, I don't want to see it, because those are the things I'm hiring for. I'm hiring the Chick-fil-A of pilots, and I want that. So tell me how you are that.
Yeah. What do you say to someone that maybe has been out of regional for longer than they wanted to be? They've had a couple interviews. Maybe they didn't get they just got the thanks, but no thanks. What do you say to someone that's kind of down in where they are? Because they see, the other people, I got 1,500 hours. I'm in right seat at whatever regional, and I just got hired at United. I just got hired at Delta. I just got hired at American. They see all these people get hired, and they're like, what the heck? What am I doing wrong? What do you say to someone in that situation? I
say the same thing that I do to my 18-year Spirit pilots, the guys that have been at Spirit forever. And now they're having to make a bad, like they're like being forced into make this decision that they don't want to make. First off, I love you and it's going to be okay. Like start with that. Like it is going to be okay. So let's take a look at the big picture. And a lot of times the big picture has to do with attitude and presentation. And it is important that if you've been there for so long and you've been there longer than, and you all of a sudden you expect that they owe this to you, or you're furloughed from your company and you expect, because there's a benefit to being a furloughed pilot, to get a preferential interview. Like if they smell that a mile away, that's a thanks but no thanks all day long. I don't even need to finish the interview. I don't even need to ask any more questions. So who you are, how you present yourself, like you met like the first time you met the girl that's going to be your wife. Like that first date, you have to seal the deal for your whole life right there on one date. And so do it. Be the best that you possibly can be. Smile. And when they say no, that literally could just be not yet. And that's okay. Yeah. So take a breath, step back, make yourself better, go in with an even more exciting attitude, like do all the things, get the reps more, and just go back happier and better. And just be consistent with it, and something will happen, and something will give. And don't be just like 1 no, 2 no's, 3 no's. Just keep going. It's okay, and keep reattacking. 6 months goes by pretty quick. I've had people at major airlines get 4 or 5 thanks but no thanks, and then finally got picked up. That's consistency. That's keeping a good attitude. Like, do it. It can happen.
What's one thing in the interview we've talked about being yourself. We've talked about being clean, being conservative. But from my point of view, the number one thing that got people in trouble in the interview that I was in was their logbooks, was not having a clean logbook, was not having a prepared logbook. And I think it caught me a little bit off guard. I mean, I made sure I printed out, I bound a logbook. I marked everything, every check write, everything. I did everything for my logbook. But just the idea, like how much they emphasized the logbooks, I think it caught me off at I know it's important, but like how important that was. Like, I think if you were on the fence and you had a bad logbook, it was a no. If you're on the fence, you had a great logbook, it's a yes.
Yeah. The logbook is your thesis. It's literally a legal document and so if like I almost didn't get my job because of my logbook. And I will say that I pride myself on having badass logbooks. Like my logbooks were legit, and I had everything tabbed. I had it color coded. I had my wife, who's a calligrapher, like write this stuff like perfectly, beautifully. Every page was signed. And if there was a discrepancy, I had a cover sheet that showed where the discrepancy was and wrote out why. And they still found a problem with my logbook. And the problem was, and everybody's going to roll their eyes, but you got to think I'm a military pilot coming into the civilian world. So I need you to give me a little grace on this before I say it, because I'm super embarrassing. I kept 1,000 hours of 121 envoy time in one of those pocket logbooks. 1,000 hours. And I had every page signed, and I had every page totaled, and it rolled to the next page, and it was perfect. And the person in the interview team says, "Hey, is this your logbook?" And I said, "Yes, sir. What can I do for you?" And he says, "That's not a logbook." I said, "Well, it says logbook right here." He's like, "That's a pocket logbook, and that is for keeping track of expenses. That is not for flight time." And he said, "Do you have anything else?" And I was like, "Oh boy." And I told you, like, I am Mr. Anxiety. I had printed out, I had sat down with all of my paper logbooks and hand typed them into an Excel spreadsheet. Jeez. Like thousands of hours took me like 2.5 months of just like cranking out numbers. And I had it all bound, and I had all those pages signed, and they all added up. And I just had it in my bag just in case. And I said, well, if you let me go over to my bag, I have a spreadsheet that I can show you. And he's like, what? And I handed it to him, and he said, this is perfect. This will do. And that saved my bacon. So if you don't have your logbook sorted, bro, like, it's too bad, so sad. See you on the other side. It takes so long, and it's so much work. And like, yeah, you can go pay somebody to go do it, and maybe you should. I have a guy right now who has like 5,000 hours that he's got in bounds and bounds of books that he's having digitized right now, just in case, because he's freaking out about having to get this next job. So do what you got to do, but realize like that's your thesis, and you better be able to defend your thesis. And sometimes, especially at Southwest, if they start like, hey, what about this right here? And they're trying to put you on the spot. The fact is, sometimes they're trying to test you to see if you're going to get stressed out, to see if you're going to become a jerk, to see. And like, that's one of that's an old school test of like the logbook people, the admin people, like pushing on you to see how you're going to respond in a stressful moment, because that's how you're going to respond on the airplane. And a lot of people have been sent home because they're like, hey, what about this? This doesn't make any sense. I'm not sure we can do anything with that. And if you are like, oh, I'm so sorry, let me figure this out. I know that I had this right, but let me figure it out. And they're like, no, I think this is okay. Thanks. Or if you're like, I know what I'm doing. I spent so much time on this thing and it's right. Like, see ya, sucker. You're out of here. So
interesting.
Yeah, that's a real, like, that is one of the old school tricks that people don't know about, because Southwest hasn't hired all year.
As someone that prepares people for multiple companies, do you think anyone has the best interview experience? Like, as what you see, not from your airline, not from whatever, as a Spitfire coach, do you see a company that has like the best interview, either the most calming, the best prepared, the best footprint, whatever it may be? Or are they all about the same?
There's one that's above everybody else. It's Alaska Airlines. They're awesome. Like, it is group interview, group therapy. Like, everybody comes together. It is, I mean, you want to talk about drinking the Kool-Aid. I live close to the Chick-fil-A headquarters, and I hang out with some of the executives out there that are really great. And when I go there, I get this experience that everybody there just like in the restaurant. And that's how it is over there too. So the best interview, like, I know you didn't expect Alaska, but they are head and shoulders great. The majors, like, everybody has their own flavor. But also everybody's starting to tighten the screws right now as far as people being prepared and being exceptional, because people are there. There's an opportunity to look for the exceptional. And so that's what it is. So it's a high stress, high stakes, big reward.
As the outside looking in, I mean, I don't know all the numbers but I'm going to ask you kind of who you think is going to hire the most. From what I see that Delta has hired more than the other two, second by United, and then followed by American. Do you inversely expect that for American to hire more this year than United than Delta, or is it kind of still up in the air? They all could hire the same. Delta still might hire more, or what do you see?
So I mentioned earlier, it's a little bit of a moving target. And last year's numbers, I think, are going to increase by about 10 or 15%. I can see American hiring about 2,300. I can see United being between that 19 and 2,100. And I can see Delta looking at 600 to 900-ish. And there's a lot going on with how those numbers are created based on deliveries and fleet size and all of their, like, where they're growing and where they're not growing and what their future plans are for what they're going to attack. United's fact of the matter is they got more wide bodies because they fly a lot of east and west over to Asia, and so they've got to be able to staff those. It takes 45 pilot, like, FOs to staff 176. So you've got to, like, get them going. You got to get a bunch of butts in seats. But also, there's enough people that want to go do it that they're able to be very, they can say no to whoever they want. And they can just pick their apples from the tree that are the ripest.
Do you think the days of, you've heard it like, hey, someone's like, I really want to go to United. They got hired by Delta. And then 6 weeks later, they're like, all right, I finally got my CGO at Delta. I'm going to go here now. Do you think that's kind of over? Do you think of, in the past, you always got hired by who you got hired for and you stayed there and that was your airline? Do you think those days are kind of over, or do you still think there's the opportunity for you to kind of choose and get the airline you really thought you wanted?
I think so. There used to be this mentality, especially at like Americans, wholly owned, like, hey, I just got a CJO with United. Would you, I know I really want to fly for American, but I'm not ready to flow yet. Would you interview me? And they're like, that's out of here. Like that's not a thing. So I think that people kind of grow where they're planted. If you are living in Atlanta and you get hired by United and you are looking at 30 years of commuting to Dulles, like maybe that's not really what you want to be doing. And then, maybe you'll be able to get your app in and get a call from Delta. Maybe not. I see people from every airline commuting out of Atlanta or commuting out of Dallas or commuting out of wherever. And so, it happens. People do switch airlines. It's way less right now because if there's a big extenuating circumstance, that's the thing that's going to pull you out. Like, oh, I've got a special needs kid and I live in Denver and they like these special doctors, So yeah, I get it. So, but it's not very typical. One of the
I
ones,
applied. Okay, go on. No, tell your story.
One of the ones I really hate is a dear friend of mine who was like 6 years senior to me at my airline. He was at a major passenger carrier. Then he went to FedEx. FedEx stopped hiring. He got frustrated. And then he went to a second passenger carrier where he's now like super junior. So he gave up like 7 years of seniority. And like chasing the brass ring is a really tough, really scary thing. So just be careful what you ask for, Yeah.
And that goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier, where just because Delta's on top now doesn't mean in 10 years Delta can't be in the middle of the pack or the bottom, So you really don't know. That great contract right now, just sit tight, just wait. There's a good chance at the bottom could become the top, or it all settles out. And you never know if you make the right decision until age 65 comes, you retire and you look back and you're like, I had a pretty good career. I think I did everything right. Or you'd be like, I'm an idiot. I should know. Why did I leave? What was I doing? Oh, yeah.
It is what and don't live in the past. That's okay.
Which is tough not to.
Yeah. April 25th is the day that Delta starts renegotiating their Section 6 contract for next year. So we're already 3 years into this contract. So everybody else is going to start negotiating contracts too. So prepare yourself for lots of gnashing of teeth and lots of angst. And that's just what happens during contract negotiations.
It is. Yeah. When I left my last job, I only applied to 2 airlines. One never heard from, and the other one within a week of me applying was like, hey, you want to do an interview? I was like, sweet, let's go. So it's really crazy how this all works. And I think that just having the ability to have someone on your side, and as we talked about earlier, there's kind of a bare minimum that these companies look for, and that is using these services. They will put you up against everyone that has used Spitfire, Cage Marshall, whoever you use, and use Spitfire. I'll go ahead and say it. It's been fun. So I'll give you a shout out. But just everyone that you use, like they expect that. They expect you to be able to answer questions just like that. And if you can't do it, it's going to be like, well, why didn't you pay $600? This is a $22 million job in your career and you didn't want to spend $600 now. Are we not worth that investment? It's like they kind of think that. So definitely try to do it if you can. I think it would be worth it.
One thing I'd like to say is purchasing interview prep can be a transaction or an opportunity to join a community. And that I think is the big difference, is that the community that we bring together, like when we go to these conventions, we have our own private chats with our clients. I mean, we'll have 1,400 people on the chat that are all our clients that are all working together to like, hey, this is going on, that's going on. We just found out this information from this company. Hey, if you're looking at this company, this is what I heard. Here's some new information. And all of that information flows. And then even after the conventions, like it continues on, friendships build.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think I benefit from just being the face of everything, that everybody's my friend, but I love friends. And like, it just is like having people going through the battle with you, like it makes your endurance continue. And it gives you, even in the lows, it helps get lifted up again. So community is first.
Agreed. I mean, when I got hired, I was in Indoc, and there's a bunch of Spirit people, and this was 2024.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit different time, but still kind of writing on the wall of what could happen. And he was telling me about how there's this Spirit pilot group chat of this airline pilots, and all they're trying to do is try to help out their buddies. So it's about the community, and as many communities as you can get in. You don't know which community is going to help you, right? You don't know if it's going to be the Spitfire community, if it's going to be your, if there's a group chat for your regional, and you're friends with people who have been hired, they probably know people too. So be a part of these communities, be present, and don't just kind of shell in yourself. It can be hard. I am an introvert to my core. I don't seek out to talk to people very often, which some people are surprised by that since I do talk a lot on a podcast. But it's hard for me, but it's very important that you try very hard to join as many communities as possible so you can just have all the options out there. Just so you never know who's going to be the one to help you. It might be someone you never thought in your wildest dreams that could help you.
100%. Like the more you can get out there, and the more mentors you can get, the more you can mentor. Like it's you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Like go do it. Do whatever you can to get yourself out there. And it's hard to put yourself out, but do it and be nice about it. Always be nice. And
the last thing I'll say, once you're there, give back. People have helped you out in your career. It could be starting a podcast, it could be whatever you want it to be. It could be mentoring. It could be being an interview coach. It could be working for a union. It could be anything, but just give back. Don't put off the next generation. Help them because you needed help at one point too. It could have been someone being like, hey, come talk to me in my $700,000 trailer and drink this bottle of whiskey with me. We're going to get you excited about the airlines. It could just be positively talking to high schoolers. Like there's so many people out there that I've realized, like you said, where you grew up, you didn't know it was possible for you to be a pilot, but it is possible for anyone to do this. All you have to do is just give them the idea. So go to high school, go talk to high schoolers, go talk to middle schoolers. Just talk to people about aviation and tell them how great this is, because I mean, we all still need pilots, and the world's gonna need pilots, and it's a great job to do. And let's let everyone have a chance.
Yep. And if you are a pilot and you are walking around the airport and you're in your pilot uniform, high five those kids. If you're a person that hands out playing cards and like trading cards and stuff, like hand them out. Like be that person that like excite, like, because every time I walk past a kid, they're like, there's a pilot.
Yeah.
I'm like, nobody goes, nobody's like, oh, there's a guy that does a regular job that sits at the desk all day. Like, no, because it's like an aspirational job. So like raise that up, lift that up. It's a good thing. Yeah.
My kid has gotten trading cards from an airline, and he's also gotten like those fake little wings. Probably the two best days of his life. He's like, Dad, look. It's like, buddy, I'm a pilot too. He's like, I don't care. Let me see those wings again.
Listen, my kids just want me to bring them first class snacks. They're like, got any gummy bears? What you got?
Yeah. Those sound like good snacks. Yeah. I'm hungry. I gotta get some food. Well, Nick, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. It was a lot of fun. If anyone wants to follow you, listen to your podcast, here's your chance to plug yourself and make it work.
Dude, well, ready for Pushback? We create the roadmap for aviation. And I just want to say thanks for having me, Justin. Like, it's been awesome to talk to you and to spend time. I have been listening to your show since the beginning, and I'm thankful for you, and I'm thankful for what you do for this community. So thanks,
Appreciate
buddy.
It. Yeah, thank you anytime. And Spitfire, go ahead and at least talk about their website too, so people know. They're like, oh, Spitfire, I've heard of the other ones, maybe not Spitfire. So link that up too, so people have the opportunity to go check you guys out.
Yeah, check us out, spitfireelite.com. You can use the code R, the number 4P 2026, and get a discount. So R4P 2026, put it in the show notes. If you want to reach out, podcast at spitfireelite.com. I'll talk to you. You want to talk about something hard, something easy, you want to tell me you hate my smile, like whatever it is, reach out. Happy to chat.
Yeah. Well, we know pilots all love discounts, so I'm sure people will be using that.
You're the man, dude. Well, thank you so much for having
All
me.
right, man. Yeah, anytime. We'll talk to you soon, and I'll join your podcast here soon, so we can get on that as well.
All right, it's a promise.
All right, dude. We'll see you later. Appreciate it.